Today I'm joined by Edu Rubio, who has had a whole host of experience in Spain, but also in the Premier League as well. Edu, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be with you, Jamie.
Thank you very much. So, as I mentioned to you just briefly there, we're going to speak about your career, starting off from where you were younger and building on to some amazing clubs like Crystal Palace. So, do you want to start us off then with your early days? I know that you maybe played yourself, and who got you into the game?
So it all started when my parents had a restaurant. Well, they ended up having a few restaurants and coffee shops, but I was born in the restaurant kind of thing, and so mom and dad never had time to really take me to the football on those things. So it was a lovely lady who was like a neighbor for us, but it ended up being like my grandmother, right? And and she took me to a game to the local stadium to Lleida when I was only 4 years old, and I remember climbing these steps and then obviously seeing the whole stadium and the pitch and everyone with the scarves and the flags and everything. And it was those days where it was still quite authentic, right? It wasn't VIP, there wasn't anything like that. I mean, you just sat on a very you know crappy chair and just watched the game, and I loved it. I loved the energy, I loved the atmosphere. I genuinely loved it. And then since then, obviously, I asked mom and dad. I wanted to play football. Then I went to play football into the local academy. Ended up playing obviously in the football club in Lleida. And then I played up to a level which here in England would be like League Two type of thing. Um, and then, well, life took me to the university, and then I realized I love coaching. I was lucky to get an early job in an academy like Valencia, because that's where I went to play a little bit, but also do my university degree. And that's basically in a couple of minutes how it happened from a very young age, going into that stadium, into that game, and loving it and thinking, wow, I want to be part of this. I love the energy, I love the atmosphere, and still now, that's the main reason why I am in football and why I love coaching and I love my job, because I genuinely love the game and I love the passion that synergy that there is between fans, staff, players, and the rest of it.
So, how old were you when you thought to yourself, maybe coaching is the more the route that you wanted to go down rather than playing? Which for me, I'd always love to play, but coaching again is one of the things on the side that you could always look to go into. But for you, why did you decide coaching was best?
Yeah, but it was quite organically. I mean, it was probably me being super ultra competitive and realizing that I wasn't going to play in La Liga, even though I was in a good standard. Then me doing really well at university and loving sports science degree and the coaching side of it and the psychology. I ended up doing a postgraduate course in psychology as well. That's what actually brought me to London, to England. And and I suppose when organically, it wasn't like a day where there was an injury or I got dropped or anything like that. It was like organically, kind of like I felt, oh wow, I love coaching. I love my career as in my degree. I love the what I'm doing with the under 14s at Valencia, and I'm gonna combine it. And then obviously I combined both playing and coaching, and then it came to a point where I got really professional in my coaching, and then I had to drop my playing. And I suppose if I had gone more professional with my playing, I would have dropped the coaching for that time and then picked up the coaching a bit later. But it was organic. It wasn't anything like drama or anything like all the people that explain I got injured or I don't know this happened or this or that. It was very organic, and it was a really kind of like happy transition. And I kept playing. But obviously in a different level, because my coaching career was taking me to a professional level, which demanded more hours and commitment.
Every year that you were at Valencia, it was under 14s, under 16s, and under 18s. So every year you went up a couple of years. What did you prefer? Because obviously, the older you get, the more competitive it gets, the more that these guys want the professional contracts. But then I suppose at under 14s, perhaps they enjoy it a tiny bit more.
Good question. I suppose there's also the environment you create and the club that you are in. What's the purpose? Is the purpose winning at all cost, or is the purpose teaching the players to win? Because that is important. I mean, I don't buy the idea of this is just development. Now, if you are in a professional football club, you have to try to obviously be competitive and try to win the game. But it's more about the environment you set up and the purpose that you have. And for me, whether I was with 14s, 18s, 16s, 12s, the purpose was always developing human beings and players to try to make sure that they would be better each day. And then if that meant them playing for the first team, bravo. If it wasn't, that was the meant to be. But that was when you have the purpose, it doesn't really matter the age group. But of course, I did love coaching the older age groups because I want to be well. I wanted to be. I am right now, but I wanted to be obviously in the first team and the elite, and that's why. But it wasn't because I wasn't enjoying the younger age groups, or because I thought it wasn't football or competitive enough. Because the purpose was always, can I develop these human beings and these players to be better today than they were yesterday?
London came up for you, and I believe you mentioned that was intertwined with your education. So you were at Rock Lanes FC in the capital. What was that like? A change in environment, because Valencia is certainly not as busy as London.
Yeah, so that was, to be fair, I got a grant from the university to do my psychology studies attached to my degree here in London. And I thought, oof, should I go? Should I? And I spoke to the academy manager at that time in Valencia, and I said, are you going to keep my job? And he said, yeah, yeah. I mean, if it is only 6 months, we can do that. And so I came to do, those 6 months. But when I was in month 2 or month 3, I thought, oh, I love this. I mean, I love London. I love UK. I love the culture. I'm learning English, which I think is very important to learn different languages. I'm learning a lot about myself. Is a self-discovery journey as well, because I have to obviously make the effort to adapt to a new culture, a new country, a new surrounding. And I love that. I've always loved learning about different cultures and languages and different people. And so I called the academy manager and I said, listen, don't, it's not arrogant, because obviously, here I don't speak the language very well. So I'm going to have to probably start from zero, which I did. And that was going to Rocks Lane, which, by the way, was an amazing experience. But obviously, I was coaching Valencia Academy, and all of a sudden I'm coaching grassroots in London. But I didn't mind, because for me, there was a self-discovery. There was a lot of self-learning and self-development, which I believe it's helped me to be a better coach today. So I called the academy manager and I said, I'm going to stay. I'm going to ask the university if I can extend another 6 months. So I did. And I extended 6 months. I finished my degree here, my postgraduate here, and then I decided to stay.
Again, so moving to England would have been a culture shock, as you mentioned, but for some people more than others, I suppose, as you said, you like to learn the new environment and the culture. You then moved up north to Milton Keynes, and how did that one come about? Was that after you finished your graduation?
Yes, once I finished my degree, then I actually worked for the FA before. So from Rocks Lane, I went to the FA. I worked 4.5 years for the England setup. Managed to get my B license, my UEFA A, because I had my B license from Spain, but back then they didn't want to combine it. One of those things, right? So anyway, we start again. Doesn't matter. It's another course, another opportunity to learn and develop. Then obviously I went to do my pro license back in Spain 10 years ago now. But yeah, basically after the FA, I had the opportunity to get into MK Dons, and that was very good. I mean, I really enjoyed it. The head of coaching, learning to develop other coaches, learning to develop players in general in the pathway, the importance of creating pathways for players and staff, and that's why, again, now I feel more prepared to be a better head coach, because it's not just about coaching the players and the team. Of course, that's your prime objective, and that's pretty much what you get paid for. But I also believe that you also get paid to shape the culture of the club, to develop the club, and to leave a legacy, and to help those people there, the chairman, the sporting director, the owner, the CEO, to make sure that when you leave, the club is going to be in a better place, not just on the grass, but also off the grass.
I think I might know the answer to this one. However, if you were to compare under 18s in England and under 18s in Spain, similarities and differences, but what one comes out on top?
physicality and technique. So I think in Spain there is more, or there used to be more emphasis in technique. To be fair, we've advanced a lot in England in the last 10, 15 years in that regard. But and then physicality, I think the normally, you know, the youngsters in England seem to be, you know, bigger and quicker and, you know, more powerful, and that's obviously a trait of the culture. But so yeah, those are the things. But other than that, children learning to be professional players, learning the trait of this world of football, and you know, and obviously the differences in the culture and the language and the weather and the rest of it. But I've always believed that is the environment of the football clubs, the culture of the football clubs, the coaching program, what really makes it different more than the country as such.
And in that time, MK Dons were producing one very big talent by the name of Dele Alli. And to work alongside him, but unfortunately to see the way his career has quite quickly fallen on him for all sorts of reasons. But when he was coming through at MK Dons, what did you see in such a young, exciting, talented player?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't coaching his age group, but I did coach Delhi a couple of times, and we were just very proud to see that there was someone there that has flourished with the environment that the club had set up. So the environment gave an opportunity to players and staff to actually express themselves, and to be able to say what they thought and they felt at any given time. And that's what Delhi needed, and that's what, you know, supported Delhi advance and progression to get into the first team, and then obviously the rest is history. But I think certain players need certain things, and I think what we offered in MK Dons in those years was exactly the type of ingredients, you know what I mean, the type of recipe that Delhi needed in that moment.
So why do you think then it didn't go maybe the way that he wanted? Because at time it seemed like he was in such a comfortable environment, and then obviously with changing managers, and then he went out to Turkey. And I suppose maybe from him it was just one of those things where it was just such an unstable environment for him.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I mean, once he left MK Dons and went to Spurs, we kind of like lost touch. So I'm not too sure the ins and outs, and I'm not too sure what was the, you know, the key factor or the many key factors that could have contributed to that. But I can just say that, you know, he was not just a very good player, but a great lad when he was with us in MK Dons. I have fond memories of him, the family, and everyone, and that just shows how difficult this world can be at times. This world of football, there is a roller coaster of ups and downs, and I don't think we those who are in football and those who govern the game, we do enough with well-being, mental health, and support for our players and staff.
Exactly that. And I speak to a lot of players, and obviously you're around them all the time. And I think that is quite a common message that they say, that perhaps there needs to be more in a football sense, because obviously we are seeing it improve with well-being around the country, but perhaps in football it needs to be more specified. You ended up going to Chelsea, and 33% of the intake in one of these years ended up going into professional football, which is quite some statistic. And I suppose when you're always at Chelsea, it is a roller coaster anyway with these players that they have coming through the doors. But for you to be at Chelsea in around 2011, 2012, what was that like to really see the intake of some of these players?
It was very good, to be fair. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned a lot there. I learned the roller coaster journey in a very demanding football club and in a very successful academy. It was, I say it was because I don't know how it is now. I mean, I've not been there for a few years, but back then it was an amazing setup, really well operated and managed, and with really good talent. And yeah, I was lucky to be obviously coaching an age group with my good friend Mick Bill, that had loads of players that now haven't ended up being in the Premier League, and they are top players. But again, it was because of the environment, it was because of recruitment, it was because of the coaching of everyone there. I mean, you know, it was a very good setup, and it was a very professional setup that helped me a lot to learn another side of football. Okay, this is what, you know, professional standards mean, and this is the expectation, and this is what means pressure, and this is so. It was good. I've been very lucky. Every single job through my journey has taught me different things to get me to where I am today, and I'm very blessed that I've coached every single age group in academies. I've been head of academy coaching. I've been academy manager. I've been head of the 21s. I've been assistant manager in League One, League Two, first team coach in Championship, assistant manager in the Premier League, because every single job has offered me a lot of self-awareness and self-development.
Well, again, with these players coming through, Tammy Abraham, just to name one player that was at Chelsea at that time. But to be in this environment and go ahead and see Solanke and Nathan Ake go and play for these big teams in the Premier League, you must be so proud to know that you were even just around these players at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, I think in my second year, obviously not because of my report, but still I was part of it. Declan Rice got released, and look, went to West Ham, and then look, now he's arguably one of the best English players that we have there. So, and that again, that teaches you that there is a lot going on in when you make decisions in football clubs, and that has taught me a lot as well about development. It's taught me a lot about how to judge players, how to judge momentums, how to judge academies. And that's why I don't, I don't see it as a success of mine or a success of, I just see it as, listen, as you said, very proud to be part of that journey, and a journey that potentially would have got where they got anyway, whether I would have been there or not. And that's how I like seeing things. I think when you feel that you are too important and too crucial and too vital for everything, you lose that authentic thirst and hunger to get better in a daily basis yourself. And when you lose that, you are not the best version of yourself in a daily basis, and you cannot be at the elite.
You mentioned that you haven't been at Chelsea for quite some time, but I reckon Cobham's still quite similar. So can you talk to me about that? Because all I ever hear is when people go to Cobham, it's like Disneyland.
Yeah, to be fair, I remember obviously now you've got loads of other academies being, top draw, and that's part of the EPPP, the investment from foreign owners and the rest of it, and the Premier League being so successful. But back then probably was definitely the best out of the best, and it still is. But obviously back then there wasn't a comparison really. And yeah, I remember the first day arriving there and having to walk. I'm not exaggerating. It was probably half a mile, from the building to the last pitch, right at the back of the. And I'm thinking, what's this? I mean, this is 5 academies in one. 5 football clubs in one. So yeah, I mean, to be fair, there was a lot of investment, a lot of really good will and really good work in that football club back then, and I was lucky to be there.
Absolutely. And this is going to sound like a really silly question based on where you've ended up within the Premier League ranks. But for the most part, how do your jobs come about? Because I know for a lot of people it can be connections, but how did it come about, the Crawley job for you?
Well, the Crawley job was, I got kind of headhunted. I got a phone call from someone I know saying that they needed an assistant manager for an Italian manager that had just lost his assistant, and whether I would be interested, and then obviously the rest is history. But throughout my career, most of the times it's been interviews, having to apply, it's been the hard work. I mean, I've not really been given loads of jobs just because a friend of a friend, offers me a job, which, by the way, there is nothing wrong with that, but that's not been my reality. But that one in particular was someone calling me on behalf of the manager, saying that they had seen my work and they knew about me, and they wanted to see whether I would be happy to to listen to the manager and work with him eventually if we both were happy after the interview.
So what was your time like at Crawley? I know that League 2 is one of those leagues where it's ultra competitive because you're so close to the National League, but you are quite close to League 1.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You know why? Because I learned the importance of winning the game for a financial reason, because otherwise you don't get your winning bonus and your basic salary is not the best. And and what it means to the players, because most of them have to work part-time elsewhere. Obviously not in Crawley, but still there were a few that had just finished working part-time to then go into Crawley. So I really learned the realities of 85% of people in football. Now that if I had just gone into the Premier League from the start and hadn't experienced League One, League Two, and the rest of it, then I think now I wouldn't be as real as I am, or I like to think that I am, because I've learned the trade. You know what I mean? I've been in those scenarios, and I know how good those players are in those leagues. I know how good people work in those leagues as well, and sometimes they don't get enough recognition. And so I really enjoyed that time, and I had a really good time in the club. To be fair, it was the year that then, unfortunately, we went into lockdown, and we couldn't finish the season as such. And the club were very humane. They were very good. It was one of those where it's like, am I going to get paid? You mean because of course in Premier League and Championship probably the salaries were secured, but in League Two it wasn't that well secured. But they did an effort to make sure that everyone was paid, and so I had fond memories from that time.
It's the same from the National League all the way up to the Premier League. But I love the fact that all these clubs lower down the pyramid can go up north and play teams on a Tuesday night, and then on Saturday they're back down at home. So for you to be up and down the country non-stop, I know it's basically been the same throughout your whole career, but to live that experience, what was that like for you?
I loved it. I loved it. I mean, and that's why sometimes I laugh when I've been now in the Premier League and the lads moan because we've got a bus journey of 3 hours. Oh, shouldn't we take a plane for this one? And it's like, okay, well, okay, maybe there is a recovery impact, maybe there is this and that, but I love being on the bus for 5-6 hours, and there is a real kind of like sense of what the game means and the love for the game. And so, I genuinely loved my time there.
You went to Real Federación after, which, by the way, my Spanish pronunciation is not the best. And it's obviously a lot harder to say than Valencia. But you went there to become a pro-licensed tutor. So then to go ahead and teach, I suppose, the next generation of coaches about your trade. Was that while you were also looking for a return into management? Because I would think that you prefer to coach rather than be teaching the coaches.
Yeah, no, actually, I did that in combination of still coaching. So I was still coaching. Back then, I would have been. Ooh, good question. Where would have been? Oh, actually, in MK Dons. So I would have been in MK Dons and then Nike Academy, actually coaching. But I did courses for the Spanish Federation for like a couple of weeks, or a week here, a week there, and I really enjoyed that because it gave me again a possibility to rephrase my style, my DNA, having to coach coaches about their DNA, their philosophies, how we coach in possession, how we coach out of possession, and the rest of it actually kept me constantly reassessing myself, reassessing my coaching, reassessing my ethos, my DNA, my style of play, my style of coaching. And so I think there is a lot of value in that. And obviously I really enjoy that as well, because that job came on the back of me doing the pro license with them, and then them thinking, well, this guy is good enough to actually teach in the pro license next year. and for me it was a sense of pride, I mean, to be asked by my country to kind of like work for a couple of years as a UEFA A and UEFA Pro coach when I had just taken my UEFA Pro only a year ago.
It must have been quite a jumbling time with COVID, as you mentioned, because you went from Crawley and then it overlapped with the pro licensed tutoring as well. And then you ended up skyrocketing into the Premier League. What was those couple of months, a year? What was that like to be going from the fourth tier all the way to the top tier?
It was tough because, like anyone else, the lockdown was difficult for everyone. But in a way, it was also good because it allowed me, at least my experience, to have time to kind of like think, reflect, and regroup, if you like. And then before I jumped into the Premier League with Julen, I was waiting for Julen to basically get the job. Because we had already spoken that he was going to leave Sevilla, come over here, but obviously there is always a few months of overlap type of thing. Paul Konchesky asked me if I wanted to help him with West Ham women's team as an assistant to him in the WSL, And I did that for a few months before I jumped obviously into the Premier League. And again, that helped me a lot because I had coached girls, but I had never coached professional women. And I had never coached in the WSL. So those few months also opened my eyes to different type of coaching, different type of teaching, different type of football. And I loved it. And again, that equipped me a little bit more to, I think, to get ready to then that jump into the Premier League, which obviously I really enjoyed. I mean, and that's where I wanted to be, and obviously that's now helped me to potentially, get back into the Premier League as an assistant, or be a head coach myself in any other division.
Well, as I mentioned to you before, Crystal Palace, when Vieira first walked into that door after the sacking of Roy Hodgson, it felt like the new club. It literally felt as if the intensity, the shift in focus, it went from a defensive style under Hodgson to all-out attack sort of thing, and just a really exciting team. And you were behind the scenes there, and in your first few weeks with Vieira, with the squad, what did change? Because you had some really good players in the ranks, so from my perspective, you had to use them.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, in the academy, we were going from Cat 2 to Cat 1, and I think Crystal Palace has done an immense job as a club in the last few years. I think the chairman and everyone there have done a tremendous job. Right now, you know what I mean? They're a hot club, right? Everyone is looking at Crystal Palace when probably 7-8 years ago, that wasn't the case. Right now, you've got an amazing training ground. You've got an amazing academy. You've got a really good academy in terms of recruitment players and coaches. You've got a first team that is now, winning silverware. So it was good to be part of that transition. It was good to be part of that. But I also think that is also testimony and is also part of what Roy Hodgson did, because he stabled the ship, because he was, making sure that the club would be secured in the Premier League, that would secure finances, that would secure sponsorships, and that would obviously be the platform in which now the club can accelerate. So hats off to him as well. I think everyone has played the relevant contribution for Crystal Palace to be where they are, and I celebrate it because they're a lovely club, and I wish them really well.
Well, you seem like a very humble person. I know you're a very humble person, but to work alongside these players now, like Mark Gahey, Conor Gallagher, Hudson Edouard, Wilfred Zaha, all of these players have gone on to go and do incredible things inside, but also outside of London. So what's it been like for you? Have you kept in contact with the likes of Wilfred Zaha, who's over in America?
No, not really, because obviously when I was at Palace, it was more kind of that transition. But so it was more when I became the coach the assistant manager in Wolverhampton and West Ham, where I had more opportunity to really be with the first team players on a daily basis. And yeah, I've kept in touch with some of them, but also, and it's weird to say this, but I mean, as much as you love the players and you love being there and they love you and everything else, it's also a job, right? So you are not there kind of like, it's not a likability context. I mean, and I'm one of those that if any player calls me, I'll always be there for them, but I'm not going to call them either, right? In that, and that's more for the fans. That's more for another type of person. The person I am is like, well, I'm there. I'm going to give my 100% to support you, to help you, try to make you a better player, try to make you a winner, and try to obviously enhance the capabilities of the team, yourself, and the football club. But once we are gone, we are gone. And of course, if we want to keep in touch, we do. But that's not me. That's not me.
With Wolverhampton Wanderers, a couple of years before Lopetegui and yourself came into the club, they were in the Europa League under Nuno. It was quite a vibrant time after they got promoted from the Championship. But for you guys coming in, there was a couple of years of turbulence, and I suppose it was your job to really try and stabilise it.
Yeah, precisely. I mean, it was a tough moment. It was a tough moment because we were bottom. I remember in our first game against Everton, away to Everton, on Boxing Day, thinking, God, I mean, we need to start winning games here from the start, from today, because we are 4 or 5 points away from salvation. We are rock bottom, and these lads are very demotivated because of the situation that we are in. They are very good, and that's what Julen did really well to kind of like reinforce the idea that, listen, the table doesn't reflect who we are and doesn't reflect the quality of this squad, but we needed points. And so, yeah, it was a relief that we won that one in Boxing Day. And it was a relief that, we managed to do, actually, I think, really well to get out of that scenario and really, stable the ship and then be able to go into better things. And I suppose if we had stayed the following season, I think we would have also had a good season. I believe so, because the energy was there and the players were certainly with us. But obviously things happen, and then we moved on.
There's something called a managerial bounce back, which I suppose you guys were really hoping that would happen, which it did. But I suppose when you first walk into a club, it is one of those things of how do we play? We need to really get something going quite quickly here. And there was a variety of formations chosen by Lopetegui. But when you were in that environment, how do you decide what you play, who you play under this intense pressure?
Going game by game, I know it's a bit of a kind of like cliche kind of comment, but going game by game, understanding, okay, what's the best starting 11 for this game? What's the best formation for this game? Because of obviously what we have in the house, but also because of the team that we are playing against. I'm being very planning the game, being very meticulous with our preparation for the game, and being very real to our limitations as well. But at the same time, being confident enough that we could beat anyone, and try to build that confidence and try to build that belief in the squad that we could beat anyone and that we were good enough. But that happened by being pragmatic at times and understanding that the most important thing in that moment was to save the football club. It wasn't about, what kind of a style I fancy playing here, or how do I want my brand to be more attractive and fashionable to future employers. Now, it was a sense of duty, it was a sense of responsibility, a sense of commitment towards the right thing to do, which was get the right points to get these lads out of the relegation zone and make sure the club would be in a better way by the end of the season.
Well, in February, I suppose that was after the transfer window. Perhaps you got your foot properly into the door. You beat Liverpool 3-0 at Molineux. So to go ahead and beat one of the top dogs in the league at home, what was that experience like for you after just in December you were in the relegation zone?
Well, a sense of pride towards the players because they did it. A sense of pride towards Julen because he was relentless in his determination to get the team out of the relegation and get them playing better football, but with a humble approach. I mean, this guy could have chosen to, no, well, my brand of football is this, I'm gonna do this, and he didn't. He kind of like he bite the bullet and kept working. So in that day where you play against Liverpool and you beat them convincingly and you play good football, it was a sense of pride to say yes. Over a couple of months of being pragmatic and being sensible and being responsible and professional have paid off, and now we can start playing a little bit more the way we want to play, and we can build the squad that we want to build, and we want to start, and we are now in a position where now we can start playing, okay, what the style of football we want to do, how we're going to build for the future. But it was first the duty and then ourselves, and on that day is probably the day where we understood, okay, the duty is now not done, but we are in the right way. Now we can start introducing the way we want to play, and I love that from Julen, to be fair, because now you see certain people, certain coaches going to certain football clubs and in certain moments and thinking more about themselves, their brand, their style, than, no, God, you've been employed to for this and this and this, so you need to make sure that you achieve that very quickly. There is no time in football, there is no project in football. That's a fancy word that we like using and that we use at times to try to protect ourselves, but there isn't. I mean, the project is build foundations, be very sensible, be together, create an alignment, have a sense of duty, have game plans, have obviously a style, but from there build in accordance to the needs and the capabilities of your football club in a daily basis.
West Ham was, again, a difficult time, a turbulent time, but Lopetegui got you on board in the coaching staff. So you were starting to build a relationship and follow, for the first time in your career, someone to another club. What was that like to be welcomed into West Ham by one of your old employers?
Yeah, very good. Very good, to be fair. I really enjoyed West Ham. It's a big club. It's a club, I live in Essex, so it's obviously next door. I really enjoyed my time there. It was tough. It was tough at times. I can't deny that. But it taught me a lot. And again, I think I'm a better coach and I'm a better person after that job. And I do generally believe that, if we had been given more time, we would have done a good job. I generally believe that, and it's proven now that when you are trying to transition and when you're trying to change things in a club, it doesn't happen overnight. And that's why I'm saying to you that there is no projects, because rightly so, the owners and the decision makers, decide when you are not getting the right results to change, not really thinking about the project, not really thinking that sometimes it takes time. Like a company, you don't build a company in 3 months, right? You don't get profitability in a company straight away. I've learned that from my family, from the restaurants. Sometimes if you break even, you can just be bloody happy, and you've worked 16 hours a day for 7 days a week in that restaurant, and you're only broken even. But that is the sense of at times building something, for the future.
Was your job made harder by the recent European success that West Ham had because of
Mm,
the expectation?
Good question. Not really. Not really. I think there is always expectation. Look, if you are in a Premier League club, and especially in a big club like West Ham, and you think there won't be expectations, and you think you won't be, questioning if the results don't go our way, then you are naive. Then you better, you better pack up and work in a different company or in a different type of industry. So no, we welcome. I think coaches, we welcome the pressure, we welcome the responsibility, and maybe there was obviously that expectation, but that's part of the job, and we did welcome that, and I don't think that was the problem, to be honest.
When you struggled for form later in the season, obviously there were some big results, but also some results that definitely were questionable. And also, from a fan's perspective, I suppose that there's pressure heaped on you even more from those people in the stands. West Ham's obviously not known for the best atmosphere at the London Stadium due to how far away the pitch is, but I'm sure you can hear a couple of insults is the word. So what's it like then? How do you block out those insults on a match day on social media? And I suppose just really try and move on after maybe not a great day at the office.
um Again, I mean, I swear to God, and this is not me now trying to be like, bravado and try to say that, no, I'm a human being, and of course, criticism and insults can affect me like can affect anyone, right? But when you are in the game, you don't hear them. I mean, I didn't. Yeah, I'm just focused in the game. I'm just in zone. I'm just trying to work out. Okay, how can I help the gaffer with the subs, with the style of play, with this, with that, or how can you don't really? I don't. I block the noise. I mean, I don't really. And actually, I love it. I love being in a stadium with 60,000 people clapping, not clapping, insulting, or singing your praises. I mean, that's part of the game, and I welcome that. I have no issues with that.
How much was the effect of the London Stadium? How much did you see it? Because I know Selhurst Park is unbelievable. Did you notice a difference though? Because the pitch, I've been to the London Stadium. The pitch is so far away from the stands.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, everyone mentions it that at times it's difficult to create an atmosphere because of that. And to be fair, Wolverhampton, we have an amazing atmosphere, and so yeah, I mean there is part of that. There is part of that, but at the end of the day, look, those 60,000 people there, which by the way is a full house pretty much every home game. So it's a good support, really good support from the fans. Yeah, sure. To be fair, there is part of that. There is part of that. I mean, but the 60,000 people that you get every game, every home game, and is a good support to be fair, a good crowd, do support and do help as well the team. So yes, the stadium obviously wasn't built for football, and at times you can feel it and you can see it. And of course, the stadium is rented; it's not your stadium, so at times you cannot do certain things that you wish to do if it was yours. But ultimately, I think the club has done a lot to make it better, and we shouldn't really use that as an excuse. Even though, yes, the atmosphere could be better if you were in a different type of ground.
Manchester United was one of the sides that you stole some points off of, and I know that they're going through a turbulent time in themselves. But again, to beat Manchester United, regardless of if it's in 10 years' time, 5 years ago, whenever, it's still Manchester United. So that must have given some momentum to you, Julian, but also the whole team as well.
100%, 100%. And we generally, I mean, this is not me, we generally thought that, we were going to make it. I mean, that we were going to have a better second half of the season, that we were going to get more points in that second half because we had worked quite hard behind the scenes with certain things and with, building the trust of the players, the confidence, trying to change a little bit the style, which is not easy when you are obviously still having to win games and trying to convince players that they can still win games in that manner. Because obviously, again, they had won games in a different style of play. So how can you, some of the players would argue, well, that the style was good enough. But so it was difficult that first half. But we generally thought that game, like Manchester United and others, like away to Newcastle, for example, we thought we had seen enough for us to be confident that the second half of the season was going to be much better and that we were going to potentially finish the season in a good way to try to build the foundations for the second year.
But unfortunately, the club parted ways not long into the new year on the 8th of January. So I suppose, again, it's one of those things where you really just wanted to get a good run in at a club with the manager and really start to build on something, because some of the players that you had there, it just feels like now from the outside looking in that they're quite quickly losing what was once 2-3 seasons ago such a solid and great team.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the decision makers make decisions, and you just have to accept it and then move on. And there is no resentment, and that's part of football. And to be fair, it's part of the journey. Again, I mean, I think I'm a better coach as well and a better potential manager because I've gone through that. And the ups and downs, and what works, what doesn't, and how you need to do certain things. So look, it's part of the game and it's part of the industry. And I wish them. I have loads of friends still in the club, so I wish them really well, and I hope they can turn it around again this year, even though they've not started really well. And I hope they have a good season because, again, for me, it's very important to differentiate. I don't take things personal, and it is what it is. It's business, and I move on, and I don't hold any resentment to anyone.
So coming up then, what do you think is next? I know that Lopetegui is over in Qatar, I believe,
Yeah.
and the World Cup's next year. Is there a potential that you're heading to the World Cup somewhere?
I could join, I could join with Julen, but I decided to try to see whether I could become a head coach myself, and that's where I am. I've been lucky. I had a few interviews. I've had a few things going on, and potentially something can come up next week or the week after. So I'll keep you posted. But until there is pen to paper, I never say anything. But then, and it's part of learning. I mean, now I've learned my bits with Julen as I did with my previous managers and with other people, and now it's, can I move on? Can I be my own man, or can I work with another person as an assistant? I wouldn't mind. It's all about moving on and learning. But I think eventually I'll be, I like to be a manager, and I like to be at some point in the Premier League, for sure.
Well, what I'm hoping is, as a fan, I'm hoping that you're going to get a job somewhere in England, somewhere hopefully down south near Essex, near London, and then I'll be there. I'll be supporting you in the crowd.
I appreciate that, but listen, even if it is abroad, you can take a plane. That's an excuse for you to visit a different country, a different culture. You'll always be welcome.
Thank you very much. So look, Edu, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you about some really, really important moments in your career, but also as a fan for myself, I loved watching Palace when you were there alongside Patrick Vieira and building those foundations at West Ham and at Wolves. So I really appreciate you joining me today. And wherever you end up, I'll be supporting you. Hopefully I'll be able to come down and cheer you and the boys on.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much, Jamie. And I hope obviously this podcast helps the listeners to obviously feel inspired by something as beautiful as the game of football.